Hello everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at an article from BBC News that was published on October 18th. Trump moves to quit 144-year-old Postal Treaty. Now, what's funny about this, and one of the reasons why I'm covering this, besides the fact of how this will have an effect on the United States, is how the BBC is actually trying to portray the fact that this 144-year-old treaty, because it's that old, it's like, why would he be getting us out of it? It could be the fact that, you know, as something ages and it gets older, it's not necessarily as beneficiary to those involved. That could be a good reason why. So let's get into the article here. The U.S. has announced plans to withdraw from a 144-year-old postal treaty, which the White House says lets China ship goods at unfairly low prices. And it's true. Anyone who's ever ordered anything from a Chinese company or a Chinese site can tell you that shipping something from China to the United States, or say Canada even, or the UK, is a hell of a lot cheaper than if you were to try to say ship something to them. That's a fact. China's exploiting this. They have one of the largest economies right now globally because of their industrialization and becoming this manufacturing center of the world. So they've been milking developing nation and favorable nation status for as long as they possibly can, and will try to do it for as long as they can into the future. Under the treaty, a UN body sets lower international rates for packages from certain countries, a move originally designed to support poorer nations. Now, here's the funny thing. They're talking about a 144-year-old treaty here. I feel like I should be pulling like Ben Stein from Ferris Bueller and be asking questions about this like when he was asking history questions. Because anyone, how old is the United Nations? Anyone, I gotta be more monotone. Anyone, how old is the United Nations? I mean, it's not 144 years old. This was a treaty that was signed that somehow the UN gained control over. Now, this has me wanting to actually, after I do this video, probably go look up the treaty, because I want to know how the hell this came under UN jurisdiction. I mean, it's a treaty that was created well before the UN was ever a thing. And this idea that setting lower international rates from packages from certain countries designed to help support poorer nations, it's good in theory, but in practice, with how they're moving everything to the third world, they're going to exploit this, which China obviously, you know, did, and that's why we're here that's why we are where we are at the moment. But the U.S. says the discounts put American businesses at a disadvantage. Very true. Definitely puts American businesses at a disadvantage. I mean, it's literally, for you to ship something from China, and I've actually shipped some stuff from China, I almost shit myself at how cheap the shipping actually was. Did I do it from Fast Tech or GearBest? I think it was GearBest. And it literally cost less to ship. Yeah, it was GearBest. And I did, I could have bought it from their US location or their China location. It was cheaper at their China location. I didn't need it right away. And I just said, oh, the hell with it. So I ordered it from the China location. The shipping was actually cheaper from their China location than it was from their U.S. location, which I believe was or is in California. That should say a lot right there. When it's cheaper for you to get something shipped from their warehouse in China. Officials said they hoped the notice of withdrawal would set a stage to agree to a better deal. I mean, if not, we can negotiate individually. I mean, Trump has said that, well, like, on several occasions. Like when he came to Brexit, he told May that she should be negotiating with these individual nations. Fuck the EU. He's not afraid to do that. So they can, and the funny thing is the way they're trying to put this is they're hoping that the notice would set a stage to agree to a better deal. They know that's what's probably going to end up happening because the United States, even though it's lost some power on the note of manufacturing and things like that, it controls a lot of shit still. And if we get out of this treaty, a lot of other countries are going to go, hey, wait a minute. We're getting fucked on this whole thing with China too. And they'll pull out as well. And they don't want that to happen. So odds are they're going to cave and give them a better deal. We're looking for a fair system, a senior administration official told reporters. We do hope that ultimately we achieve a negotiated outcome. Even if we don't, who gives a shit? I mean, a lot of the shipping situation, we're getting screwed when it comes to the Postal Service. Let's do a little screwing back for once. You know what I mean? They're bending us over and fucking us up the ass when it comes to private corporations and these developing or supposedly developing nations where they've become manufacturing centers like China. They're screwing us over with shipping and everything else. Let's give them the shaft back. Let's give them a taste of their own medicine. I got no problems with that. The BBC Asia business correspondent Karishma Vaswani said the move to pull out of the treaty is aimed at forcing the Chinese to give up the developing nation status that they had when they first entered the pact back in 1969. That's part of it. That is definitely part of it. I mean, China should not have developing nation status at this point. Yes, they still have developing to go, but they are an industrial, technology center. They're going and they're mucking around in developing nations. If you are no longer a developing nation when you're exploiting developing nations like they are in Africa. Like they are in other places like Central and South America, like China's with Brazil and Bolivia. I mean, we should seriously be keeping an eye on China with that note because they are literally going out and exploiting these nations, these poor nations. They're strapping them with debt. And then what they do, like they did in Africa, this is how they manage to get a military base, like right next to a U.S. military base. You don't think that they're going to use this to, say, put a military base in Bolivia, which the Bolivia El Presidente for life, he's, in bed with China big time. You don't think he'd give them, an area for, say, a naval base or an Air Force base or any other type of, like an army base or something? You don't think he wouldn't? Most of the money that Bolivia is getting is coming from China. He would do that. So they shouldn't be considered, a developing nation when they're doing stuff like that. And when they're going into what amounts to the backyard of the United States, we should stop them from fucking us in other areas as well. How does the system currently work? International mailing rates are governed by the United Postal Union, a unit of the United Nations that traces its roots back to the 1870s, which how the hell, if this is from the 1870s, how the hell did it become part of the United Nations? The United Nations is not that old. It should have always been kept a separate organization. It subsidizes shipments from developing countries while setting higher rates for wealthier nations, including the U.S. So basically, these higher rates are being forced on these quote-unquote wealthier nations, which if they want to ship something cheaper. Now, whatever happened to capitalism, whatever happened to open markets, where if someone, I mean, that's what led to these private shipping companies like FedEx and UPS and DHL. If the Postal Service wasn't held by this stupid freaking treaty, maybe, we might be able to make it competitive. We're getting fucked on providing very low rates because of this treaty to, say, China, and then we're giving sweet deals to corporations to ship shit. Why should we be in this treaty on the note of when the Postal Service is getting crippled by it? Makes no sense. But the White House said China, a major global exporter, was now the biggest beneficiary of that system, and they are. And then as soon as other nations become more and more developed and on the note of industrialization, say like Vietnam, for example, they're going to start exploiting it. To an extent, they're starting to now. The U.S. wants changes to the Postal Treaty to allow countries to set their own rates for parcels weighing under 2 kilograms. 4.4 pounds, really? That's not a lot of weight, but I can understand wanting to allow that. Makes sense. They should be able to set their own rates regardless. It doesn't matter the weight. They should be able to do it whatever weight they want. I mean, like the Postal Service with their boxes, the one size box. If you can cram it in, ship it. It's the same type of idea. They should be able to set whatever rate they want, regardless of the weight. They are already allowed to do so for bigger packages. The rise of international online shopping has led to a huge increase in the number of small parcels being sent via the postal system. Yes, and a lot of them from, say, Fastech, GearBest, Alibaba, all the other Chinese sites there. So yeah, they're really exploiting this. American firms say it can cost significantly more to post an item within the U.S. than it does to send the same item from the U.S. to China. Yeah, exactly. Like my example with GearBest. I bought something from them. I could have got it from the U.S. warehouse, but I ended up, because it was actually like $10 or $20 cheaper or something like that. And I said, I don't need it. I can deal with the weight. And I got it from their Chinese warehouse, and it was cheaper to ship it from China. I mean, that's kind of a common thing. What is the U.S. argument? The bid to overhaul the treaty is part of the U.S. President Donald Trump's combative America First approach to trade, which has led to tariffs on billions of dollars in goods, attacks on existing trade treaties, and criticism of multilateral agreements. Well, first off, I got to give the BBC credit. This is like the first article I've seen, and God only knows how long, if at all, where president, proper noun, is actually capitalized. And I've even seen them not capitalize it in the BBC, which they do it out of disrespect, because they always capitalized it for Obama. They always capitalized it for previous presidents. But since Donald Trump, they don't want to give it the capital P, even though it's the proper noun. He is the president. You are referring to the office holder as in the proper noun. They don't like to capitalize it. I got to give them credit for that. And this idea of combative America First approach to trade. I hate to break it to you, but he's the president of the United States. Is he supposed to put the EU first? Is he supposed to put China first? Is he supposed to put North Korea first? Is he supposed to put South Korea first? Is he supposed to put Russia first? Is he supposed to put, South Africa or New Guinea or Myanmar or any other nation first? No. America fucking first. He is the president of the United States. The intent of his position is to basically look out for the best interests of the United States and fuck everybody else. And that's been forgotten in this world, because they think the president should be like bowing down and doing what's best for all these other nations at the cost of the United States. Well, that game is fucking over. Deal with it. And this idea that, it's led to tariffs. No, so basically saying, look, either you give us a fair fucking deal or we're going to put tariffs on you. And they go, you're bluffing. You ain't going to do that. No, you ain't going to fuck yourself. No, you won't do it. Oh, I won't do it? Fuck you. And then enacting tariffs as a result, because trying to make it sound like his tariffs are something that he initiated as a start of this, because he warned all these other countries, said, look, come and talk to me. Let's make a deal. Or I'm going to put these tariffs on, like with China. Or, like with Canada and NAFTA. Well, fuck you. We'll pull the fuck out of NAFTA. And what did Trudeau do? Justin Trudeau do? The pussy hat wearing bitch cucked to him. Because they know that we need them less than they need us. They know that they're fucking us. That's the bottom line. They know this. So they're like, well, shit. They can fuck us even worse. So they bow down. And it's not like he's using this to actually fuck them over and give the U.S. the sweetest fucking deal ever. He's just trying to get something fair. If he wanted to be a cocksucker, he could drive these other countries into the ground and have an even stronger negotiating position. But he isn't trying to do that. And, I mean, what gets me is that they, with the last part of it here, before we move on, how they're talking about existing trade treaties and criticism of multilateral agreements. Well, first off, multilateral agreements, meaning NAFTA. NAFTA, we got fucked. TPP was going to royally fuck us. I have a problem. I still have a problem with the idea of free trade between Canada and Mexico, because I don't trust either country after what they did to us with NAFTA. TPP? Oh, fuck no. I mean, I trust... Hell. Looking at what we could see on that, it's a fucking nightmare. He has frequently singled out China, which exports more goods to the U.S. than any other country. Yeah, they also export a lot of goods to Europe. One reason why they export so many in the United States is because a lot of our manufacturing got royally fucked because we had these shitty trade deals with like Europe and China, and it drove our industry into the fucking toilet. We still have industry, just compared to what it was, it's in the toilet. It's getting better, though. Europe, you still have, like electronics manufacturers and shit like that. Officials said the discounts strain the finances of the U.S. Postal Service, facilitate the shipment of counterfeit goods, and distort pricing within the U.S., leading to higher fees for domestic companies. Now, yes, there are counterfeit goods being shipped, but I'm sure you've got companies like Apple telling them, oh, counterfeit goods, counterfeit goods, counterfeit goods, because you've got remanufactured goods that are actually Apple products that have just been remanufactured that are getting seized as counterfeit. So I'm sure that's a little bit of that whole counterfeit good thing. Due to lower rates, foreign packages cost the U.S. about $300 million each year, according to administration estimates. Wow. I mean, it's a piss in the bucket, say, compared to how much the country spends, but that's still a lot of money. Which goes to show how bad the U.S. is getting fucked. Even though it's a piss in the bucket. More like a squirt of piss in the bucket, but still. The process of withdrawing from the treaty takes at least a year, and the White House said it would be willing to remain in the UPU if negotiations were successful. I don't care. I say pull us out of it. Personally, we can negotiate individually with countries. We can actually use this against China. I mean, if you jack up their shipping into the United States, Oh, that would fucking cause them to lose their shit. And it would make Xi Jinping think twice about trying to fuck the United States. Because he already knows that he really can't, like, say, on with the whole tariff things. Because we can throw more tariffs on them than they can throw on us. And we still have the infrastructure to gear up to replace what we are not taking in from China. Might take a little time to get up to speed, but we can do it. It's definitely possible. The U.S. Postal Service and companies such as Amazon and FedEx have complained about the discounts of foreign shippers for many years. Now, I love this one. When you have Amazon and FedEx, two of the biggest offenders for exploiting the fucking Postal Service, bitching and whining about China fucking them. It's rich. It's fucking beautiful shit. Because it shows their hypocrisy. They got no problems porking the fucking Postal Service and the American people. But if China's doing it, and fucking them in the process, oh, hold on, wait a minute, you gotta have that stop. We can't get fucked. You guys can get fucked, but we can't get fucked. I mean, that's some funny shit. So, me personally, I think we should get out of it, like I've been saying here, negotiate individually, or bring it down to its knees and make it so that we're the ones dictating shit so that China can't use it to their advantage anymore. And the problem is you're going to have, as I said, these other nations that are going to show up on the scene as they develop. They're going to start taking advantage of this, and it's just going to be a never-ending vicious circle. It's a 144-year-old treaty that never was written looking this far ahead and seeing the transition of the United States through the Clinton administration and fucking bending over with China because he's getting money up the wazoo from them, him and Hillary, and fucking the United States to allow for this open flooding of industry and outsourcing to China. They didn't see stuff like that. They didn't see this idea of even an industrial age like now, where the United States become a big part of that. But they didn't, definitely didn't see the third world doing that. They were looking at the fact of trying to help out these nations to where the intent of it, from what I peripherally understand historically, was basically the idea of to help these developing nations develop postal systems so that they could become part of the global community and ship letters and packages and those types of things. Not business type of stuff per se, not commerce per se, but become part of the global communication system. Where we've reached the digital age, the Postal Service or the postal system is not a global communications network. It's not a way for you to communicate, at least efficiently, halfway or almost, or anywhere in between on the note of another place on the planet, being halfway around the world or a third of the way or whatever. It was not intended for commerce. I mean, yeah, commerce takes place through the mail, but it was more for the fact of they needed a way for everyone to be able to communicate. And now, with things changing, this is what we have. Anyway, I've covered this well enough. I'm just going to leave things here. If you liked this video, depending on where you are watching it, please give it an upvote or thumbs up. If you want to know when new content of mine hits the internet, don't forget to subscribe to one or more of my social media or video accounts listed here. Also, with YouTube, don't forget to ring that bell. You can find all of my video content on both BitChute and YouTube. This may not be the case with other places I upload to, but I will try to minimize this happening. You are always welcome to interact with me at any of these sites on the list, so feel free to do so. If you have anything you want me to cover in a video when it comes to news or current events, send it right along to me. I will try to do my best to cover it. As always, thank you for watching.